Imagine marrying the woman you love, stepping up as a father figure to her kids, and then being told, "Don't correct my kids, get your own." That's exactly what happened to me, and it broke everything I thought I knew about family and marriage. Welcome to Amelia's Stories. Stay with me because these true-to-life stories about love, betrayal, and heartbreak will take you through real experiences people have faced. If you're new here, drop your location in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. My name is Ethan, I'm 36 from Ohio, and a few years ago I married Claire. She was 34 at the time, a divorced mother of 2 kids. Maya, who was 14, and Logan, who was 10. When we got married, I thought I was stepping into a new chapter, not just as a husband but as someone who could give these kids a stable and caring home. I wasn't their biological dad, but I wanted to be a real father figure. In the beginning I was excited. I helped with homework, cooked dinner, drove them to practice, and went to their school events. It wasn't easy balancing everything, but I loved the idea of us being a family. Sometimes Maya would roll her eyes at me or Logan would test my patience, but that's normal with kids. What hurt was how Claire reacted. She made small comments at first, things like, "They don't need too much guidance," or, "I'll handle it, Ethan." I brushed those moments off, but they kept coming. It was like she wanted me to support them financially and show up, but never really have a say in their lives. The cracks started showing when Maya got caught sneaking out one night. I sat her down, calm but firm, and tried to explain why it was dangerous, why she needed to be more careful. Before I could finish, Claire cut in sharply with words I'll never forget. "Don't correct my kids. Get your own." I froze. It felt like someone had pulled the rug from under me. I had been pouring my energy, time, and love into this family, and in one sentence she reminded me that I didn't belong. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself she was just stressed or upset in the moment. But deep down, something inside me shifted that night. I realized my place in this marriage wasn't what I thought it was. And as time went on, I discovered that this was only the beginning of bigger betrayals. It didn't take long before the small cracks in our marriage became too clear to ignore. Whenever I tried to step in as a parent, Claire found a way to undercut me. If I asked Logan to finish his homework before video games, she would sigh loudly and tell him, "Go ahead, sweetie, it's fine." If I reminded Maya to be respectful, Claire would roll her eyes as if I was being too strict. The kids noticed it too. Slowly, they began dismissing what I said, almost testing me to see if their mom would back them up. And most of the time she did. What stung the most was that deep down I knew Maya and Logan wanted structure. There were little moments when Maya would linger by my side, asking for help with school projects, or when Logan would light up if I cheered for him at a game. Those glimpses told me they needed guidance, even if Claire pretended they didn't. But every time I tried to step into that role, she pushed me out, making me feel like I was intruding in my own home. Day by day I started feeling less like a husband and more like a bank account. I paid the bills, kept the household steady, but emotionally I was invisible. That feeling of being on the outside, of not being trusted or respected, began to eat away at me. I couldn't shake the question that haunted me late at night. Why did Claire marry me at all? One afternoon I came home earlier than usual after a cancelled meeting. As I walked through the door I heard laughter drifting from the kitchen. It wasn't the casual kind. It was softer, closer, filled with a comfort that instantly unsettled me. When I stepped in, I saw Claire leaning against the counter, smiling at a man I'd never met. She quickly introduced him as Marcus, an old friend from her college days. He greeted me politely, but the way they looked at each other said more than either of them admitted. I didn't confront her then. Instead, I told myself to watch and wait. But soon the signs became impossible to ignore. Claire started keeping her phone closer, slipping away to take calls in hushed tones. I'd wake up at night to the faint glow of her screen as she typed furiously, claiming it was just work. More evenings went by with her explaining she had errands or catching up with a friend, yet she returned home hours later with flimsy excuses. The moment it all clicked came not from Claire but from Maya. One evening, while I was helping her with homework, she looked up at me and asked innocently, "Why does Mom go to Marcus's house so much?" My chest tightened. The fact that even her daughter noticed meant the truth was no longer hidden. It was living in plain sight. That was the moment the betrayal became undeniable. Claire wasn't just distant, she was unfaithful. I finally reached a point where I couldn't stay silent anymore. One evening, after the kids had gone to their rooms, I sat across from Claire at the dining table and asked her directly about Marcus. My voice was calm, steady. "I just wanted honesty. Are you seeing him? Because it doesn't look like just friendship anymore. Instead of answering, she laughed bitterly and shook her head. You're so insecure, Ethan. Always imagining things. Do you want to control every part of my life now? Her words felt like daggers, but what hurt worse was her tone. Cold, dismissive, as though my concerns meant nothing. I pressed gently, asking why she spent so much time with him and why she hid her calls. That's when she snapped, her eyes narrowing. You're not their dad. You don't get to control what I do. The weight of that sentence hit harder than anything before. In one breath, she dismissed me as a father figure and stripped me of my place as her partner. I sat there stunned, wondering how the woman I married could reduce me to a stranger in my own home. As I tried to process, she pushed further. If you keep accusing me, maybe we should just get a divorce. I won't live with someone who tries to police me. Her threat wasn't empty. I could see it in her face. She had already made her choice. And in that moment I realized how far gone we really were. Late one night, I woke to the sound of Claire's voice coming from the living room. I stayed quiet, listening from the hallway. Her tone was soft, almost trembling with emotion. Then I heard the words that shattered the last bit of denial I had been holding on to. I love you, Marcus. My stomach dropped. This wasn't suspicion anymore. It was confirmation. I pulled out my phone and hit record, capturing every word as proof. From that night on, everything looked different. I noticed the kids echoing the same dismissive attitude Claire had toward me. If I asked Logan to pick up after himself, he would shrug and mutter, "You're not the boss." Maya rolled her eyes more openly, just like her mother. The respect I had tried so hard to build was gone, poisoned by Claire's influence. I started to feel invisible, like nothing more than a wallet paying the bills and a body filling the space of stepdad. The love, the effort, the sacrifices, all of it had been brushed aside. The betrayal wasn't just Claire's affair. It was the way she turned her kids against me while still taking everything I gave. But I didn't break down. Instead, a calm resolve settled in. If she thought I'd just walk away quietly, she was wrong. I began planning my exit carefully. And when the time came, I wouldn't just leave her. I would make sure everyone saw the truth she worked so hard to hide. From that night forward, I became deliberate. Instead of confronting Claire again, I turned into an observer. Quietly, I began collecting every piece of proof I could. When she left her phone unattended, I photographed the text threads. Messages filled with affection and plans that left no room for doubt. I pulled late-night call records from our shared phone account, each one showing long conversations with Marcus when she claimed she was working late. It didn't stop there. I went through our bank statements and found charges that made my blood run cold. Expensive dinners, hotel stays, and little gifts she never explained. All of it funded by the money I worked hard to earn. At the same time, I started documenting how she undermined me with the kids. I noted the way she brushed off my attempts at discipline, how she encouraged their disrespect, and how often she reminded them I wasn't really their dad. The biggest confirmation came by accident. One early morning, as I left for work ahead of schedule, I saw Marcus's car parked outside. He was dropping Claire off, and she was still in the same clothes she had worn the night before. She had told me she was at yoga. Seeing them together, looking so comfortable, sealed everything I already knew. But I didn't explode. I stayed calm, even polite when I walked back inside. Because I understood something. Revenge would mean nothing if it wasn't precise, undeniable, and devastating. Once I had enough evidence, I knew the next step had to be careful and calculated. I scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney, laying out everything I had gathered: texts, call logs, bank statements, and even the recording. The attorney didn't just confirm the affair. He explained how Claire's actions could heavily influence the divorce outcome. Her adultery, combined with the way she had been draining our joint finances, would play a major role in dividing assets and even in custody arrangements. That's when I learned something that gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in months. Claire wasn't just cheating, she was spending our money to fund her affair. Trips, hotel bills, fancy dinners, all of it came directly out of the household account. The attorney advised me to document everything and remain calm until the right moment to act. I realized leaving her wasn't enough. She had disrespected me, turned her kids against me, and thought she could keep up appearances with her family. If I simply walked away, she would spin the story to make me the villain. I wasn't going to give her that chance. So I began planning something bigger. I reached out to her parents and her sister, inviting them for what seemed like a simple family dinner. I wanted them present when the truth came to light. If Claire had painted me as the controlling husband, then I would let her own actions speak for themselves. The night of the dinner, everything looked ordinary on the surface. Claire's parents and her sister sat around the table, chatting about work and school while the kids picked at their plates. I waited until everyone was settled before I cleared my throat and set my phone in the center of the table. With one tap, the recording of Claire's late-night call filled the room. Her voice was unmistakable, soft, intimate, whispering, "I love you, Marcus." The room went silent. Claire's face drained of color before she lunged for the phone, shouting, "This is taken out of context. He's just a friend." But I didn't stop there. I pulled out the folder I had prepared. Screenshots of texts, phone records, receipts from dinners and hotel stays, every detail showing how she had used our money to fund her affair. Her parents stared at the papers in disbelief. Her father's jaw tightened, and her mother's hands trembled as she pushed the receipts back across the table. Claire kept yelling, insisting I was twisting things, but the more she shouted, the clearer it became that the evidence was undeniable. Maya and Logan sat frozen, their eyes wide. For months, their mom had told them I was the problem, but now the truth was laid bare. Maya whispered, "Mom, you lied," and Logan looked down ashamed. Claire's parents finally spoke, their disappointment sharp. "How could you do this, Claire?" her mother asked, voice breaking. For once, I wasn't the outsider. The truth had finally spoken for itself. The very next morning after the dinner, I filed for divorce. With all the proof in hand, the process moved in my favor. The court acknowledged Claire's affair and her misuse of our finances. She was ordered to cover part of the financial damages, and the division of assets leaned heavily toward me. For once, I felt like the truth had finally carried weight. The hardest part of the divorce wasn't the paperwork. It was watching the kids process everything. For weeks, Maya and Logan kept their distance, confused and quiet. Then little by little they started reaching out. Maya called one evening just to talk about school, her voice hesitant at first, then softening as she said, "I'm sorry for how I treated you." Logan followed soon after, sending me a simple text, "I miss you." Those small words meant more than anything. Meanwhile, Claire tried to hold on to Marcus, but the affair that seemed so exciting in secret began to collapse in the open. Friends whispered her family wouldn't take her side, and Marcus himself pulled back under the weight of the scandal. Their connection, built on lies, couldn't withstand the light of day. By the time the divorce was finalized, Claire had not only lost her marriage but also the respect of her own parents and sister. What she thought she could control had slipped completely through her hands. And I, though scarred, walked away knowing I had protected my dignity and exposed the truth. After the divorce, I finally had the chance to breathe. I moved into my own place. A modest apartment, but it was mine. No tension, no second-guessing every word I said, no manipulations hanging over me. For the first time in years, I felt free. I poured myself into rebuilding, going to the gym, focusing on my career, and reconnecting with old friends I had drifted from during the marriage. Little by little, the pieces of my life began to feel whole again. What I didn't expect was the slow change with Maya. At first, she only came by to drop off something or say hello, but those short visits turned into longer talks. She began opening up about school, her struggles, even things about her mom that she couldn't share at home. One evening as she was leaving, she hugged me and said quietly, "Thanks, Dad." For a moment I froze because it was the first time she had ever called me that. I didn't gloat, I didn't remind her of the past, I just gave her the steady presence she had always needed. Logan followed in his own way, calling more often, sharing little victories from school and sports. Standing in my quiet home, I often thought back to Claire's harsh words, "Don't correct my kids. Get your own." In the end, she was wrong. I never needed to get my own. Her kids chose me because I was the one who showed up, even when she didn't.